But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the green belt, which don't mean it, the real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about?
Can you talk about the difficulty of this decision?
Yes, it's very sad. It is very complicated to have to vacate a title, to withdraw recognition of a champion hurts very deeply.
And this is what TKO is saying. Why do you have to pay them? Don't pay them. Don't adhere to their crazy rules.
Following Shakur's title being revoked, Terence Crawford calls for a boycott of the WBC and attacks the organization for its haughty, onerous regulations and exorbitant costs.
$100,000. What makes you so motherfucking better than any other sanctioned bodies? Huh? To that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA?
In a confrontation with Mauricio Sulaiman, Terence Crawford says he can grab the belt if he so chooses because Sulaiman has been charging Shakur an absurd $100,000 charge.
Can take the fucking belt. It's a trophy anyway.
After stripping Terence Crawford, Shakur was stripped by Mauricio Sulaiman, who claimed that Shakur had forfeited his WBC title status due to rule violations and non-payment.
WBC super lightweight, then he unified and became undisputed in welterweight against WBC champion, who was Spence. Great fight. He petitioned to fight a final elimination bout in super welterweight against Madrimov and remain champion in welter. The WBC supported him. He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000.
After my most recent altercation, Shakur Stevenson said on X, "I just paid these dudes. Come at me for it. I'm giving you all $100,000 right now because you have a grudge against Bud," expressing annoyance with the constant demands. According to Terence, bureaucrats profit handsomely from combatants while athletes endure penalties and are still required to pay exorbitant WBC sanctioning costs.
And guess who got to pay for it? Us fighters. We paying for y'all to come out here, have the time of y'all life, stay in the best hotels of y'all life, and it's all done on our dime. It's done on our dime. Do that sound right to y'all? It's crazy, ain't it? We the one out there getting battered, knocked upside our head, and every time we step foot in the ring, we gotta pay them a sanction fee like they the government. We getting taxed.
Shakur Stevenson gave several thieves who didn't deserve it $100,000. "No, Leilani, I would prefer to give it to you, sweetheart. This battle is killing them, and the WBC had nothing to do with it. Grab your belt. I'm not made by it." Expressing his annoyance. Removing a champion's belt is unfair, disrespectful, and reflects poorly on the organization, says Roy Jones Jr., regardless of disagreements. It's
a lot of people were really upset about it. And
I don't really want to get too deep into that. All I'm going to say is it's wrong for him to be stripped if he didn't even defend the title.
Yeah.
That's all.
Chris Manx calls it disgraceful and unfair that the WBC is requiring Shakur Stevenson to pay exorbitant fees. He underlines that the organization has no moral claim on Shakur's earnings, regardless of how much money he made. According to Chris Manx, the existing sanctioning system is essentially faulty and ought to be abolished because it takes advantage of fighters who already deal with a great deal of mental and physical strain in the ring. He notes that despite taking risks, enduring penalties, and dedicating their lives to the sport, sportsmen are subjected to needless financial demands by organizations such as the WBC.
Is as crooked and shady as you can possibly get. And for the WBC to do this now, when sanctioning bodies are under attack, when the sanctioning system is under attack, this is a glaring example about why maybe they shouldn't exist. Maybe they shouldn't be in boxing if you are going to reach into the pocket of a fighter like Shakur Stevenson, ask for $100,000. According to Shakur, there's been no comment on this for the WBC. I asked for one. I talked to a member of their staff, said, tell me what's going on here. And all I've seen is the Instagram post of the WBC saying they were stripping him. To reach into the pocket of a fighter for a fight that you have nothing to do with and asking for $100,000. I don't care how much money Shakur Stevenson made that night. That's his money. That belongs in his pocket. The WBC had nothing to do with it. It is disgusting. Disgusting that they stripped Shakur Stevenson of that belt. And Shakur would be right to never fight for a WBC belt.
Terence Crawford first caused trouble for the WBC when he declined to pay a $300,000 fee following his bout with Canelo Alvarez. Crawford had every right to refuse, according to many. He asked why he should give them so much money, pointing out that the IBF, WBA, and WBO, among other sanctioning organizations, had never lodged a complaint regarding the costs he paid them. According to Crawford, those organizations just accepted their part without protest, underscoring the WBC's somewhat capricious demands. Crawford made it clear that he owned his purses and that DBC President Maurice Sullivan had no basis for asking for them extra funds. The DBC refused to accept Crawford's offer of the customary 3% of his salary and instead requested a higher 6%, which was far more than what other organizations needed. Analysts pointed out that sanctioning organizations frequently play a minor role in the actual fight, aside from bestowing the title, which calls into question their exorbitant costs.
I think Terence Crawford's well within his rights to say that I ain't giving you $300,000. Why? Like, why am I giving you $300,000? What for? And don't talk about my purse. Like Mauricio Sullivan saying Terence Crawford made 50 million. What's that got to do with you? No. And what I like as well about Terence, he said, look, I gave the IBF money, I gave the WBA money, I gave the WBO money. We haven't heard any of those organizations moan about the amount Terence Crawford gave to them. They're like, oh, we'll take it. Because ultimately, what are they doing? Apart from strapping a belt around your waist, what are they doing? And we'll get to that as well. So he then tried to give the WBC that amount of money as well. They clearly said, no, we're not taking that. We want a bit more. And then they're like, okay, normally we take 3%, but 3% of 50 million would have been too much. So you know what? We'll give you, we'll allow you to pay us 0.6%.
Shakur. No one has seized Stevenson's title in the ring, and he is still undefeated. Despite this, the WBC said that his absence created a vacancy in the division and declared his title vacated after he increased in weight. Despite the fact that Stevenson never lost the title, this choice made it possible for fresh competitors to vie for it. Making the distinction is crucial. Rather than via loss, the title was administratively revoked. Since this was a technical or administrative decision rather than a reflection of Stevenson's abilities or performance history, his career is still intact. The facts demonstrate that Stevenson's accomplishments remain unaffected by the WBC's ruling, and his undefeated record keeps him regarded as one of boxing's best fighters.
Can be ruled inactive at that weight class. So, despite nobody beating Shakur Stevenson, he is an undefeated fighter. Nobody took his belt. But for whatever reason, the WBC has decided him moving up has created some type of void and have now made and declared his title vacant, allowing the division to successfully move forward with new contenders. So in this case, Stevenson, he didn't lose his belt in the ring. Nobody beat him. He's still undefeated. The title was vacated administratively, which is a difference. And we need to establish the facts from the fiction. So nobody beat Stevenson. It doesn't really hurt his career, his official box rec, and it says he's suspended by the commission indefinitely. So I'm not sure if he has some type of injury, but usually when it says indefinitely, they got to get clearance from a doctor to come back. And again, this could be possibly from his fight with Shakur Stevenson. So this is a developing story, and we'll see ultimately how it plays out, what the WBC officially decides to do. in terms of who's next and what's next. So what are the facts? What does this mean? Shakur Stevenson was not stripped for any type of misconduct. Shakur was not penalized per se, and Shakur Stevenson is not suspended. So it simply reflects the WBC has considered him no longer active at lightweight at this time. A bit political. That's the only thing that I can think of.
Analyst support for OLAD. The BC's decision to deprive Shakur Stevenson of his 135-pound title is regarded by Depot as peculiar and contentious. Unbeaten fighter Stevenson had stated that he would return to the 135 pounds division after temporarily moving up in weight. Nevertheless, the DBC ruled that his title was null and void due to his lack of participation in the weight class, opening the door for new competitors to vie for the title. According to Oladipo, the circumstance demonstrates the DBC's somewhat strict and bureaucratic methodology. The WBC's regulations mandated that Stevenson pay 50% of the sanctioning fee as if it had been a championship defense, even though his most recent bout was not for the organization.
Shakur Stevenson blast WBC and responds to being stripped of a 135-pound title. This is a bit wild. It's a bit wild. And the reason it's a bit wild, so many different reasons actually, but one of the biggest reasons is that Shakur has always said, I want to go up to fight Teo, but I want to come back down to 135. So basically, he's almost telling the WBC, let me go up there, I will come back down. And with what the WBC are going through right now, and this battle with Zuffa, where, you know, they've got some real big players and power over there, and they're saying F the belts, and WBC are fighting, saying no, the belts mean stuff. The last thing you want to do is have a public spat, a public back and forth with one of the biggest names in boxing right now. Shakur Stevenson is one of the biggest names in boxing. And the thing about Shakur as well, you piss him off, this guy will go straight to social media and make it known that he's pissed off, and that's what he's done.
This policy seems excessive to the analyst, especially considering that Stevenson never lost his belt in the ring. Olau further notes that the WBC's treatment of Stevenson is similar to previous disputes involving other athletes, showing how administrative measures and sanctioning fines can cause friction between the organization and champions. Since the administrative stripping has no bearing on Stevenson's unbeaten record, his career is ultimately unaffected, but it calls into question the impartiality and openness of the sanctioning body's regulations.
For him, or from him, sorry, which was $100,000. Now, a lot of you might say, well, one second, his last fight wasn't for the WBC, it was for the WBO and the ring title. Why did the WBC want any money from him? The WBC have a clause, I think it's either 7.3 or 7.4, yeah, where even if you do not fight for the WBC belt, if you're a champion of their belt, i.e. which Shakur Stevenson was, you have to pay 50% of the sanctioning fee as though the WBC belt was on the line. Does that make sense? Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to find it and read it out to so I'm not paraphrasing, because this is quite important and I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke. I really do. All right. Okay, yeah. All right, rule 7.3. I'm going to put this on the screen.
Shakur Stevenson has made it very evident that he is a 135-pound fighter, according to the analyst. Only for situational fights has he increased his weight. Teofimo Lopez, a former unified lightweight and WBO junior welterweight champion, was recently decisively defeated. With 13 victories via knockout, Stevenson currently has a record of 22 wins, 2 defeats, and no draws. The WBC rushed quickly to revoke his 135-pound title despite his lucidity, demonstrating little patience for him to choose his next course of action. Stevenson has stated time and time again that, barring a unique circumstance, he plans to compete at 135 pounds.
Shakur Stevenson made it abundantly clear that he's a 135-pounder. He's going up in weight just for situational fights. He just defeated 2-division world champion, former unified lightweight, and now former WBO junior welterweight superstar, Teofimo Lopez, in dominating fashion. He's now 22 wins, 2 losses, no draws, 13 wins by way of knockout. After a beautiful performance, a dominating performance, the WBC, in a rush to do nothing, in a rush to do nothing.
Additionally, he has stated that he would be open to fighting Lamont Roach, who the WBC promoted to number 2 at 135 pounds. Stevenson has never stated that he intends to stay at 140 pounds indefinitely. Analysts highlight that the DBC's hasty administrative decisions ignored Stevenson's goals and his unbeaten status, casting doubt on the organization's ability to make decisions and handle elite fighters.
What he wants to do next? This dude, Shakur, has told the world I'm 135 pounds. I plan on competing at 135 unless there's a situation that presents itself. You got Lamont Roach, who you elevated to the number 2 fighter in the WBC at 135. Right? Shakur says yesterday, I'm willing to fight Lamont Roach. We're going to make it happen. Right? Now,
according to analysts, Shakur Stevenson's move up to the 140-pound class opens him a lot more interesting boxing prospects. He might weigh 135 pounds again, but after his convincing win against former 2-division champion Teofimo Lopez, that route doesn't seem as appealing. According to analysts, his current lineage title and WBO strap are more significant at 140 pounds than they were when he was lighter. Participating in this class brings up the possibility of high-profile bouts, such as a prospective challenge against Devin Haney, the WBO welterweight champion, which would be one of the most interesting bouts in sports in 2026. Other elite competitors sometimes touted to as belonging to boxing's elite group are also included in the 140-pound class, providing Stevenson with competitive and significant fights that advance the sport and his career.
For Stevenson in the 140-pound division, I think there's more attractive fights in the 140-pound division, because if you would have gone back to the lightweight division, Muay Thai would probably be the most intriguing matchup, and I don't know if after beating Teofimo Lopez, that I think that would have been going backwards. I believe that the WBO strap that he got right now and the lineage title that he got on is more valuable in the 140-pound division than going back to the 135-pound division. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that he could also petition to be the WBO mandatory to the welterweight champion in the WBO in Devin the Dream Haney. I think that would be an attractive matchup in 2026 following that type of performance versus Teofimo.
A fight with Stevenson is doubtful, despite Keshan Davis now holding the WBO required status at 140 pounds, underscoring the difficulty of balancing mandatory responsibilities with alluring matchups. In general, experts believe that Stevenson's transition to 140 pounds enhances his legacy, sets him up for greater difficulties, and makes fights more interesting for spectators while preserving his place among boxing's best unbeaten fighters.
Those are the four kings, the Fab Five, whatever you want to call it, and I think that's just better for the sport of boxing. That's better for Shakur Stevenson, and I think that's a very winnable fight right there. We know that Keyshawn Davis is in WBO mandatory position right now in the 140-pound division, but we all know that they're not going to fight. So, we all could keep on asking Keyshawn and Shakur, when you going to fight? Are you going to fight? Both of these guys already saying they're never going to fight again. So, Keyshawn Davis is going to be moving up to the 147-pound division, right? So, unless that Tank was active at 135, that's the only fight that the world want to see at 135 is Shakur versus Tank. We're not gonna see Kid Austin versus Shakur Stevenson at 135. That the Kid Austin, he lost that opportunity.
That concludes the video for today. Keep an eye out. Until the next.